So I do know that I had recorded things. We had shot sequences that got cut. For the life of me, I can't remember what those are, but I do remember recording things and then feeling sad that they got cut, because I thought, oh, that was a good performance. But there's always a reason, like for why. Like you kind of you're removing the fat, you're streamlining a little bit, or maybe there was like a something else that had to happen after my stage further down that was going to be too costly, and a decision was made to put that effort towards something else. So it hurts to see stuff, but ultimately it's improving the game. Sometimes you have to remove things to make things better.
Yeah. I think I experienced it a bit earlier in the pipeline. It was generally we'd be working through our estimates. We'd be looking at kind of what we've done so far, how much we have built, how big the game is getting, how much time we have to finish, and how much we can conceivably fit within that space of time. The thing that I really admired and really liked about how we went about it was we didn't just go, we don't have time to do this, we're just going to cut this whole area off and that's it gone. Our game isn't modular enough to do that. I think that works if you've kind of got a self-contained area within the game that isn't going to be largely impactful. We don't build areas like that, unfortunately. Everything feeds into everything, more or less. And the stories lined up with everything. So anytime we did have to make some cuts, the first port of call was to go straight back to our core story team to figure out, can we still thread everything together by the end? Can we still make sense of this? What are the holes in the story created by any cuts that we do make? So that the story was never sacrificed because we didn't have time.
And I think that it's a logical part of making games. But if we cut a side mission and then reaped the benefit of like more Halcyon content, or like now you can take Karlak out for dinner, right? Like these are correct decisions, like of where we're gonna. It's that return on investment of what's going to impact the player the most. And so you see things get cut, and that's hurt, but you see the benefit of where we could then put those resources afterwards. I think that's important to sort of weigh that all the time.
I mean, like weekly we have meetings with all the leads and producers throughout the whole development of Baldur's Gate, and concerns are raised there, and people will put in proposals for saying things like, we want to get rid of this, or we're not sure we can finish this, or we would like to add this, and all of these conversations go in, and it was just sometimes it was great and efficient, and sometimes it was messy because there's a lot of voices in there, but generally it was a really useful way of people putting forward proposals and then immediately being able to tell what the knock-on effect of that option is. Like, if we remove this, what does that mean? At times a cut can actually create more work than it saves, because if we can't if we decide that we want to try cut a particular aspect of the story, we go, okay, that's great, but we have put in the seeds of that story in 27 dialogues in Act 1 that we might have to go back and get those actors back in and re-record some notes and redo some scenes and all of this type of stuff. So that's where the consensus has to happen. There has to be a discussion, because again, like I mentioned, it's a huge project with lots of connective tissue that has to be discussed. And again, not that's why we have a big team of leadership that can discuss it. It's absolutely vital in a project that size.
Yeah. Did somebody have like a map of what you're talking about, the connective tissue between the different story elements, and okay, cool, this connects to this connects to this, and sort of tried to maintain that? I can only imagine how, the number of permutations and different threads that are part of the main stories of this just are immense.
We tried at times to map it. Mapping it is nearly as complex making Baldur's Gate 3 was, to be honest. It was a very difficult process. Generally, I have to say, to their credit, similar with what Greg said with the city artists, we, for specific characters, we obviously kept one writer and generally one scripter assigned to those characters as well. And they would be the ones, like the keepers of knowledge for that character, and they would say, hey, we can do these 5 different things in Act 1 with this character, and here's what these 5 different things could potentially do as we move into Act 2, Act 3. So we generally, it was very much a committee-based thing. People, we talk a lot. The writers are involved in lots of discussions, as well as the cine artists and the scripters, because they hold a lot of that information. We are attempting to try and keep that a bit more formatted for my sanity, just so I can keep up with it and understand what's there. But honestly, it's quite a difficult thing to keep all these things aligned, and they change a lot.
Right, yeah.
So if we tried to put together like a Confluence page with all this information, it would be outdated by this time tomorrow. So it's better to allow it to kind of progress the way it is, and then when it's a bit more settled and concrete, we can start mapping out some of those things. But as we start to come up with cool ideas for the next act and the act after that and everything else, again, it could change. So it's we have lots of documents, and we keep those documents moving, and they're live. But it's not something that we tend to map, because it's not it instantly becomes out of date and unreliable, and then people start holding on to unreliable information.
The level of complexity and the fact that almost trying to map it would have been a fool's errand, just because of how rapidly it was changing, which meant that we had to rely on the people who knew. It's an organic thing, not a built thing, if that makes sense. It's not it's not a machine we're building. It's an organic thing that's growing, and we have to just trust that everybody's in the right, we have enough people in the right spots, remembering the right things, and move forward without that perfect single source of truth that probably everybody at some point was like, I wish I had that, but simultaneously, actually the cost of that is too high.
And it's out of date as soon as it's written.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, that's how fast sometimes we're kind of working.
Mm-hmm. And I do think it ties back into the whole indie company ethos, because in an indie company, the expectation is that someone is going to identify the thing that they need to just take ownership of. It's like, right, I'm gonna own this. This will be my thing. I'll hold on to information. I make sure I keep it up to date, and that I know what the relevant information is, and that I can tell anyone else who needs to know it. And that is fostered throughout the company at all levels. It's not something that's just at director level or at Sven level. That's at every level.
Yeah.
That people are given responsibility to and the opportunity to take ownership of things and be the owner of things.
You've mentioned a couple of times the way we made decisions was we talked about it. The way we made decisions is we got out of the room and we chatted and whatever that looked like. There's a lot of people out there who go, I don't want to talk to people, I want to do work. And I'm sure, by the way, you both felt that and had people at Larian who would beat that drum. And I think it's actually a really smart drum to beat, right? Because we can spend too much time in meetings. How did you hold that balance of, hey, you know what? It's really important. We get together to talk about this, both in the Greg, in your space, where it's like we're trying to figure out, was that good enough? How are we going to do this? What does that day look like? Again, that's probably conversation, a lot of conversations. And simultaneously, every time we're in a conversation, we're not sitting at our desks, we're not getting our work done, whatever that means. How did you manage that?
Yeah, I mean...
Did you enjoy this episode? If you did and are looking for more conversations like this one, join the Building Better Games Discord community. It's for leaders and producers in game dev who are frustrated with solving the wrong problems and who want to share experiences and learn how to lead and build better games. Check out the show notes to join. I'll see you there.